Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where we talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Mayor of Kingstown, Season 2, Episode 5. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, sadly, we had the situation with the Milo's bonds where it turns out that Joseph got to the lady before she could leave. I guess she was still waiting around just to make sure her husband was found. But maybe like the moment his body was found, that's when she finally left town. It's like, yeah, when you found out about his body, it was already too late. Because it's like, I don't know if he talked about his wife because later on it's like, oh, Joseph, what did you know? And it's like, he said, like, the guy didn't tell me anything. And it's like, oh, you didn't find out from him and you ended up killing him. Oh, and then you ended up killing the lady. And even Mike makes a point of it. She was strung up in public, no witnesses. It's like, yeah, that's how this kind of goes down. So she most likely, Mike wanted to move the bonds as soon as possible because it's like, obviously, Milo's going to find out about that. This is a lot of money. This is the main reason why he's staying behind. And because Mike, I think this was going to be his gamble. He talks about it later with Bunny, like, oh, I got something I can offer the DA. So he was going to use them as leverage to get, force Milo out into the, out of the shadows, because it's like, cool, here's a big time inmate who escaped, who I know is still out, who's out here, that you're not even fully sure if he's out, but I got a gut feeling, I'm pretty sure. So he was probably going to use the bonds, because as he kind of talked to Stevie about it, was it last episode, he's like, there'll be bait, and I was like, bait for what? It's like, bait for Milo, because Milo was going to be the chip that he cashed in at the bare minimum to get Bunny out. Whether it was going to be the other three leaders, that's a whole conversation in itself, but things don't go the way they want to, because Mike told Stevie to move the bonds, but he's like, no, I came in this morning. He's like, whoa. Why'd you wait till this morning? Why didn't you get him? Because at first when the person's breaking in, I was like, it's at Stevie. I was like, would Stevie even have to go that roundabout of a way? I was like, well, just so he doesn't have to go through any official channels, leave his signature anywhere. Maybe you can make the argument, hey, I'm here checking on some other evidence. I just happened to step out with something. But like the moment that cop was kind of like, oh, it's midnight, let me move along. I thought like, yo, Milo's about to go like, I was like, well, I guess it's not guns a-blazing isn't necessary when you can just probably pay off the right people to kind of like get you in. So you can only assume that person who snuck in was one of Milo's people. So, because Milo told Joseph, like, yeah, you failed me. He's like, I want to forgive you, but I can't. So I'm just going to handle this myself. I was legitimately scared for Joseph, because I was like, Milo's about to kill you, isn't he? But he didn't. It's like, but you could tell how upset, because Joseph spent so long serving Milo, and now it's like, oh yeah, you're in his shit list now. And I think for him, it's this situation of, he knows that if Milo doesn't strike now, it's just a matter of time before Milo's like disappointment gets the best of him when it comes to how disappointed he's in you, and then he's going to strike. So we'll see how that plays out on that front. But because like Joseph had that puppy dog, like sad kind of puppy dog look on his face, so you're like, so what does that really mean? When he's like, oh, I'm going to handle it myself. Where you failed me every other opportunity, I'm going to have to step in. I'm going to do it myself. And it does make you wonder, will he disappear after now that he has his money? Or will he kind of raise the ground, like kind of go scorched earth upon leaving? Does that include Joseph and his business, including Iris? It's hard to say. Is he going to come after Mike after this? I mean, Mike's already got enough on his plate because Rhonda, Bunny's cousin, came to meet. Well, to be fair, a lot of people came to see Mike because a lot of people are like, yo, so-and-so I know is connected to Tent City. It's gone. Where they at? And Rhonda in particular is like, yo, where's Bunny at? Like, Bunny puts like so much trust in you, but it's like, yo, without my cousin around, stuff is going to be bad. It's like the shop is kind of important. And if he's not around, like people from other crews, specifically the Bloods, would come after, like, shoot up my spot or something like that. So you need to fix this. And I love Mike showing up himself, which even she's like, why are you here? She's like, you must think yourself so pretty that you never really she kind of made it seem like you never really had a struggle or anything. But he was like, yo, like, the thing you need to know about me, Rhonda, is when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I love that line. What was it? Why does Bunny trust your fine white ass anyway? And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, why do you trust him so much? And he's just like, take care, Rhonda. Like, have a good day. It was like interesting. Like, he decides to like avoid that question You know, maybe he legitimately doesn't know why. Because Mike is one of the few people, like, even considering these circumstances, yeah, he's trying to, like, push Mike to do something, but even then, it's still, he's given Mike a lot of leeway in the past, and even with these current circumstances. And I guess, because, I don't know, they're just something that they see in each other, you know? I guess, I don't know, because it's something, I think we've gotten little hints of it here and there, but I don't think we've ever taken a real deep dive into, like, Bunny and Mike's relationship, like that whole dynamic. It is also interesting, too, in this episode, we find out where all of the 4 gang leaders are. Turning out they're all in the same prison, which even kind of got the question, like, wow, did they do that on purpose, or is this a dumb move on their part, not realizing the consequences of something like that? So I was like, even I'm not 100% sure what that's about. It's probably just like, we don't care, we don't know. But the way Kareem talks about it later on, it's like, you guys are my people, so maybe that's like, maybe he had a little sway in kind of keeping them all together until whatever, if anything can happen, put them in a situation where they're all in a position where, like, if Mike's able to get them out, you know, without much fuss, or having them all in one place rather than scattered to between the 4 other, like, the 3, because there's like 4 prisons in total, like, between, like, the other 3, like, as long as they're not all in all 4. I mean, they're all in one rather than all separated amongst all 4, you know, so. And I thought it was interesting when he met up with his guy, was it Raphael? And the guy was like, yo, this ain't no more like blood and Crip stuff. This is more so about we're just pure black in here. Because at first I was like, that prison, I maybe it's just me. At first I was like, that looks like a lot of white people. Just because I'm like, oh, that's not a good thing, because you're like, oh, that seems like that's a lot. I was like, are you going to be like one of the few black people here? But it's like, no, we're all here, but it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of team black here, because the rest of it, like, it's mainly like white people, and I think probably like people from like the Mexican gang as well. But Kareem did sit all of them down and was like, yo, this is how it's going to go. Keep your heads low. Like, don't start anything, because you mess with me, I'm going to give it back to you 10 times as hard. So kind of letting them know the lay of the land. But it's like, yeah, if Mike could actually do something, don't you think he would have done it by now? So we'll try to figure this out as it goes along. But the leader of the Mexican gang was just like, you know what, screw it. Like, fuck Mike, we're going to run things like we would. And then, like, the Aryan Brotherhood dude is looking at... I've never heard that... It makes sense. The moment I saw the initials, I was like, AB. I was like, oh, AB. Yeah, I was like, I've never known that to be shortened to ABs. Because normally I just hear it just kind of shortened to the Aryans. So I've never, like, thought to, like, just initial it. Like, oh, the ABs. So that guy is just staring at Bunny. I guess he's trying to make his move. So, I mean, he'd already made it pretty clear with Bunny. It's like, yo, Mike doesn't fix this. Like, he was already on kind of hashtag team fuck Mike McCluskey. Like, so it was kind of already that time regardless. And now the others are starting to heavily trickle in that direction. Well, not even heavily. They straight up are right there right now. So, and Bunny's the only one that still kind of got Mike's back. Now, what Bunny was originally going to do, I have no idea. But he was telling Mike, no, it's good. You're good, Mike. You're good. It's like, he's like, you handle things your way. I'm going to handle, like, I have no choice. Being under the circumstances I am, I got to make my own moves. It's do or die in here. It's eat, or be eaten, kill or be killed. So, what Bunny was going to do exactly, I have no idea. Doesn't matter, because those plans were shut down the moment, like, the other officers, like, beat him up and dragged him into solitary. And it's like, I think he said, like, I guess the leader of because the leader of the AB has a lot of sway specifically with the officers. So it's like, I guess he gave the order to take Bunny out of the picture, because because Bunny's the one that's trying to keep the equilibrium here. But one of his boys ended up working with, I guess, someone, because it looked like that might have been a white guy. I don't know. Like, it looked like someone was like who had like a tattooed face, like burned up the leader of the Mexican gang. So it's like, oh, cool. So one of the heads is dead. So I don't know whether they're going to use this opportunity to wipe the rest of that gang off the face of the map, or kind of make them bend more towards their will, or we kind of have to do what we have to do to survive in this situation. So that's what I thought was interesting. I was like, why would you work like, not unless that guy isn't with the AB like I thought he was. But I'm just like, the fact is you did that, and I was like, okay, interesting. And I guess that's why they needed Bunny removed from the equation, because if he was there, he would have put the kibosh on that. But with him kind of out of the equation, like his other boy was able to kind of run things to kind of make that happen. I don't know. I'm probably like getting a lot of the context of that wrong, but that's just my understanding of it. But I probably got that completely wrong. There's also this interesting little side plot they kind of introduced where like Ian's talking to this guy Charlie, which I'm like, hey, that actor, I've seen him in a lot of things. I'm like, I have not watched it in a very long time. I only saw like parts of season 1. I like that it just never circled back to the show. I know he's one of the main characters in SWAT, so I was like, yeah, whatever role you're having in this is probably got to be limited in that regard. So it might be just a 1 episode thing, maybe 2 at most. Once again, I don't know the status of his character in the show. I think he's still in the show, but whatever the case may be. I guess the guy's a serial killer, and Ian comes to visit him to learn the location of a new body. It's like, okay, here's one in Idaho, but he's like, yeah, but this guy's he's scattered different places. I was like, that's okay. And I'm like, what is that plot line about? Like, what is that going to be, if anything? So, it's like, I wonder, does it have anything to do with Milo? Or is that just kind of a whole separate other... Maybe it's just a whole... But it just seems so out of nowhere that I'm like, it feels like that's going to have like... Either that's going to become a storyline in its own right, or maybe it does have some overarching connection to Milo in some shape or form. I don't know. Circling back to Kareem, there was a guy at the prison who got like... was in the middle of the yard, started throwing up blood and fell. I was like, did he get poisoned? Like, it doesn't look like he got stabbed or anything. I was like, is he poisoned or something? I was like, what? And then, like, the moment, Kareem's, like, right-hand dude was talking about, the moment he was talking about Tent City, I was like, was there something wrong with Tent City? Was the food or the water contaminated? He was like, what's going on here? And the moment he was like, he was one of the 3, I was like, oh my, and Kareem's like, what do you mean the 3? I'm surprised he still had to explain further, because that's when it clicked for me, when he was like, the 3. I was like, he's one of the guys Kareem beat the ever-living shit out of. And it's like, he's like, one of your 3. And then Kareem was like, oh. He's like, yeah, ever since you laid the smackdown on him, he's been leaking. He's like, so if you want to frame this as like something else, or you want to say someone else did it, I want to let you know I got your back. And Kareem kind of falls against the car, because it's like, yeah, it's all coming crashing down. Like, I guess he legitimately thought he was going to be able to get away with that without there being any issues. I guess because, like, right, no one was going to believe you, like, you're going to take your lumps and you're just going to live with it. It's like, now the guy's like in a very bad situation medically. And then the other guy later on walks up to him and is like, yo, like, he says he's one of yours. So Kareem's kind of in a deep shit situation. So it's come to the surface what he did. Now, whether they know about the other 2, that's a whole other conversation. But that's why Kareem ignores Mike's calls later on, because he's got his own situation to deal with. Plus, he also made it clear, he's like, you're not the mayor to me, Mike. Like, I don't fall in line for you. When you ask me to do something, like, we're cool, but we ain't like that, you know? So, extra reason to ignore Mike's call at this moment in time is dealing with his own fallout, so. At the same time of all this, you also have Kyle trying to figure things out. Turns out he got cleared for the shooting. And he said, like, the point was they want to be able to bury him with honors and not have a cloud above his head. So that's why they kind of cleared up the shooting pretty quickly. But Kyle's not sure what he wants to do. Does he want to go back? Does he want to work with Mike? He's trying to figure things out. For him, it's like, I don't know what to do. Like, the fact is, for him, he feels like being a cop is all he knows how to do. He's also worried about, like, what if I'm going to be a bad father? It's just everything that can go wrong is kind of going wrong, and he's spiraling a bit, trying to find some even footing. Because he was even talking to Mike, as like, hey, we'll find Milo. No, we'll deal with this. We'll get Bunny out and stuff like that. And Mike was just telling Kyle, basically, keep your head on a swivel, just kind of, like, just let stuff play out. Like, don't fuck with things being where they are. Just, yeah, we are going to make this happen, you know, because Milo took something, he broke it, and we're going to fix it. He's going to try to. So, but obviously that's not going the way Mike wants it to. But Tracy's, telling Kyle, because Kyle's like, yeah, we have to make this decision together. And she's like, I don't think you're ready. After what you've gone through, I think she said it's only been like a month. You need more time to heal. So whether Kyle will actually take that time, that's a whole other conversation. So we'll have to wait to see how that plays out. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I think it's such an interesting conversation where she was like, man, you don't have to worry about it. You're a good husband, you're a good son, and you're going to be a great father. I just think it's interesting. And once again, I could easily be reading too much into it because maybe it just doesn't need to be said. But the fact is she didn't go like, and you're a good brother. It's kind of like, I think that could be interpreted two ways. One being like, hey, that doesn't need to be said. That's pretty obvious. Or two, maybe she purposely didn't continue that. I don't know. I felt like that was so on purpose. You mentioned every other dynamic of who he is. A son, a husband, and soon to be father. But nothing on the whole brother thing. Once again, I'm most likely reading too much into it. I just thought that was kind of an interesting choice of words, or lack thereof in some regards. It's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us. Mike's outside of the prison, just as like the Mexican leader ended up getting like lit up like that. So how he resolves that situation, he's told Evelyn time and time again, like there's going to be issues if she didn't kind of help fix this. And now we're in this predicament and just things are going to get so much worse from here on out. How they necessarily get worse, we'll have to wait and see how this ultimately all ends up playing out. Ultimately, what Milo ends up doing is going to be interesting too to see. And also, once again, if Joseph's actually safe or whether it's just a ticking clock until his time is up. I went and looked it up again just to reconfirm it, but next episode is going to be like the mid-season break. Once again, I don't know whether it's just like they still need to finish the rest of the episodes, whether it's like some pick up filming stuff that they need to finish filming, or whether it's some post-production stuff. Once again, there's quite a few things that's kind of like spacing out their seasons recently. So I don't know if that's going to be the new thing going forward for a lot of stuff, or whether, I don't know if the Jeremy Renner circumstance, like how much of a, because this was already, I think this already happened before, but once again, TV's kind of an interesting beast all on its own in comparison to a movie where they're still working on stuff even while the show itself is airing. So that's where I'm like, I don't know what the factors were in that. So, but it's going to be interesting to see once again where episode 6 ends off, but also like what that means potentially for the rest of the season. Not unless they are making this a super short season, but I can only assume like it's just these are the only episodes that were done. Because last season was 10 episodes, so I'm assuming this season would be 10 as well, but that could just be a misunderstanding on my part. But either way, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.